Hey everybody, it's Boo-Ray Perry from Tampa, Florida, and before we get started, quick reminder, be sure and check out my podcast. It's called Photobomb. It's available anywhere that podcasts are found. I guarantee you will enjoy it. Join my group on Facebook. It's called Pro Photo Talk with Boo-Ray Perry. It's a good community, and it's a great place to get answers to your questions. And also be sure and go in the links and check out my gear page. All the gear that I use, my equipment, both professional and my travel equipment, my Fuji gear, everything I list, everything I use, it's all right there. And if you click those links and you use something or you buy something from Amazon, I get a couple of dollars and it helps me to keep this channel alive. All right, so we got to talk about the X-H2. My X-H2 arrived last week. This is my new Fuji X-H2. I am upgrading from the Fuji X-T4. I looked at the X-T5 and the specs that were coming out with the X-T5, but one of the biggest problems I have with the X-T5 is that the camera body itself is actually going to be a little smaller than the X-T4, and I already have a hard time with the X-T4 because my hands are big. The X-T5 is bigger, it has a bigger grip, and that's what I wanted. And even then, it's small. Like, look, if I put this camera in my hand, the way it's supposed to be held, right? Okay, you see my pinky? So my pinky's under here already. So now I'm holding it with just two fingers. Just these two fingers are holding the camera instead of being able to really hard to get my pinky in play. And also, look at where the trigger falls. See, here's the trigger. Look where my finger falls. Not here, here. What I really need is for this camera to be like this. But I'm probably the exception. You know, a lot of people have smaller hands, and so, you know, that's on me. So let me say right off the bat, I love Fuji. I converted a couple of years ago. If you don't follow the channel, please follow the channel. Give me a like and give me a subscribe. If you're a Fuji shooter, or even if you're just a photographer, I talk about photography concepts and I teach difficult to understand things all the time. I love Fuji. I love their color. I'm sticking with the brand, but my first night out with this camera, I had some problems. And here's what happened. So I'm shooting an event, and I'm taking pictures. I've got flash on my camera, and I'm shooting, and suddenly the camera just locks up. The little light on the back here, this little light right here, it's blinky, 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 and it just keeps on blinking. Red, green, red, green, red, green, but nothing's happening. So I have to pop the battery out, put the battery back in, and go back to shooting. Within moments, it happened again. And then it happened 6 more times in the course of 2 hours. So in the course of shooting an event, in a 2-hour span, it locked up 8 times. So I got home and I started checking everything. First of all, am I using an approved card? Yes, this is the AV Pro CF Express B. And I checked and double checked. Yes, Fuji says this is an approved card. My backup card is an Extreme Pro 170. This is the same cards I used in my XT4, and I'm only writing JPEGs to this card. So I don't think that could be the problem. Fuji battery is inside the camera. My flash is a Godox VH62 F. Been using this on the XT4 for a long time, never had a problem with it. My lens is a Fuji lens. You know, they're 18 to 55. My firmware, there's a new firmware update for the camera. So I download the firmware update and I put it in. I check the notes, and there's nothing in there that says that this is a problem that they fixed in the firmware. But, you know, maybe, who knows? So I update the camera, update the firmware. That's good. So we're off to go to event number 2, and this happened Saturday night, just 2 nights ago. And I get there early. Before I get there, though, I go and I do some pictures on Thursday, and it doesn't happen the whole time. I'm just shooting portraits, right? So I'm like, okay, maybe I fixed this problem. Then I go to shoot an event on Saturday night, and I'm doing some portraits before the evening begins. It's a bar mitzvah. And I am shooting with the same transmitter, this time a Fuji's transmitter. The same transmitter on the camera that I was using during the session that I shot for an hour and a half on Thursday. And I'm using a different lens. I'm using the Fuji the wide one, the really wide zoom. I can't think of the name of it. But everything else is the same. And it locks up again. And in the course of that night, it locked up 3 times. 3 times I had to pop the battery. Now, here's the really weird part. I'm shooting in manual mode. In every one of these situations, I'm in manual mode. And my ISO is set to 3200. When I pop the battery out and I put it back in, it would switch my ISO to auto 2, the auto setting, number 2. And here's what's really weird. My auto 2 setting, you can go in and you can set what your what your cap is. I don't want the ISO to go above a certain amount. I don't want the shutter speed to go below a certain amount. And by the way, if you're not using auto ISO and you don't know how to set it up, I have on my channel, I talk about that. I'll put the link right up here. And you should go check that out because this is great. When you're shooting without a flash, you can't beat using ISO because basically you can program the camera to do what you would do anyway. So use your auto ISO. So again, my auto ISO is set to cap at 3200. When my camera would lock up, I would pop out the battery, pop it back in. My camera would change from where I had it set, which was a manual 3200 ISO. It would change to auto ISO 2, and it would change the high-end setting on the ISO in auto ISO 2 to 6400. That's bizarre. Okay, first of all, it's weird that it would change the camera settings. Right? Why is it changing the camera settings at all? But what's really weird is it's setting a setting that is inside an auto setting. That's 2 changes. And the second one is completely bizarre. What would make the camera change my auto ISO setting and then change to the auto ISO setting? So I'm making this video today because I'm hoping that the search engines will grab it and the SEO will grab it and someone has had this problem along with me and can jump into the comments and maybe shed some light on this. So if you've had this problem, please chime in and talk to me about it. I don't fault Fuji for this. It's very easy when it comes to this sort of stuff to be like, oh my gosh, they've released a camera that's not ready. Listen, you can beta test a camera all you want to, and they've got the people beta testing it, and they're giving it to the Fuji X shooters, and they're having it try and put their camera through the paces. That's fine. But you are not going to discover all the problems that you've got with your camera until you put it in the hands of 200,000 people and you have them all shooting with it all day. You just can't. You just can't. So when you get a camera, when you're an early adopter and you buy a camera that's fresh on the market, it's only been out for a couple of weeks, yeah, it's not. You got to know going in, there's a good chance you're going to be waiting for a firmware update to get it to where you really want it to be. And I'm hoping that that's what this is and that it's something that can be fixed with the firmware. Or I'm hoping that it's a mistake on my part, that I've done something wrong. If I had to guess, though, I would say that it's something to do with the trigger. This trigger is feather soft, and I don't use back button focus, right? So I have to press on the trigger in order to focus and lock in my exposure. And when it would happen, I feel like it would happen because I would shoot and then immediately touch on the trigger again to set up for my next shot. And I feel like maybe there was a lot going on. The trigger's going, so the camera's focusing, and it's trying to get the exposure, and it's trying to load the 2 cards, and all that stuff is happening at the same time, and maybe somewhere in there it just got befuddled. It got jammed up in the buffer. I don't know. I really don't. But I feel like it has something to do with the trigger. I mean, maybe I have to press it, then underpress it. Maybe it was a rapid fire, with my finger, and it was just too much. I don't know. Have you had this problem? Anything close to this problem? Talk to me about it because I want to get this problem solved. Because one of the things that concerns me about this is that if I decide to put a grip on this camera, how hard will it be then to pop the battery if it happens on location? And I'm thinking about putting a grip on the camera to make it bigger for my hand. But I've never used a camera grip before, a battery grip. And so how hard will it be to pop the battery if I put the battery grip on here? I don't know. So let's get to the bottom of it. All right. Also, if you're a long-time watcher of my channel, there's something coming. I'm creating something for the channel that is coming soon. Believe me, it's not a big deal, but I think it's kind of funny. And so if you're a watcher of the channel, then you might think it's funny too. So pay attention. If you're a subscriber, check your sub. If you're not a subscriber, sub, because I'm hopefully this week it'll be ready and I'll debut it on the channel and we'll see what you think. All right. But in the meantime, once again, if you've had this problem with the X-H2 or anything with any of the Fuji cameras along this line and you think you can shed some light on this, then shoot me a comment and shoot me a like, shoot me a sub, and let me know, and let's get to the bottom of this problem. Thanks for watching.